Everyone's going to start coming back. I love when everyone's faces start popping back up. It makes me so happy. At least Mike kept me company today while I was in here by myself.
So Lorna, when everyone gets back, can I mention something quickly?
Of course you can. Welcome back. Welcome back. There you go. People are popping on. Let's see what's a number. There we are. Many more faces. Yay! All right, Curtis, you said you wanted to mention something?
I do want to mention something. So Lorna, as you know, you and I had a conversation yesterday, and I've been talking to the team leaders here, is that I'm going to do some information next month in regard to LGBTQ IA+. We were going through the questionnaire in our little group, and someone said, oh, are you going to, yeah, I'll be living there with my partner. Oh, okay. Well, what does he do? Or, and we stopped because of the assumption was that it was a man or it was this. And we just kind of had a discussion in regard to pronouns, and that we should use in that situation if we don't know the word they or them. Because when we make an assumption, they could think, ooh, I may not want to tell this person because they may not want to work with me if they know that I'm LGBTQ, or if I'm, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think it's something we need to be conscious of, because we can't make that assumption of what their other half or partner may be. So if we could use the they and them, that's, it's a gentler approach, and it makes you unclench your fist, and that the nerves of that can be overwhelming for somebody. So just a quick note.
Thank you for the
Curtis. Great suggestions.
Yeah, that is great.
It is, because there's things you're just not mindful of too, and especially just even coming just from diversity and inclusion kind of background as well. I just think some of those things are key, and it's things that we don't even think about in the conversation. There's a lot of cultural differences because it is a worldwide company. I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
No, right, and it is a thing, and it's not that anyone is being unkind or direct about it. It's just things we don't think about. And the one thing I said in this little thing, and I would just share it real quick and then we're done, is if somebody has a dog that they've lost a dog, they put a sign up on the telephone post, and if I find the dog, I'm going to call them because they lost their dog. I don't know who it is, and we do it all the time. I have a pair of shoes for sale. They are really cool. Do you want them? We do that all the time, but we don't realize it, that we can also apply that to a particular situation in regard to this. And I just wanted people to be conscious of it.
Somebody once gave me the suggestion, whatever you think of the game Guess Who that most of us played as kids, and you would say, do they have sunglasses? Do they have a beard? Do they, because you don't know if it's a male or a female at that point.
I love that game. That's a great, that's so true that we ask those questions. I wouldn't even think of that. That's a great way to think about it.
Can I jump in here for a second? Also, for people whose pronouns are they, them, is something like that, like, are we starting to ask our clients what their pronouns are? Are we at that point yet?
I was just going to jump in and say that honestly, these days, I don't think it hurts to, when you're first getting to know somebody, clarify, make sure, just say, I want to make sure that I'm treating you respectfully. And I wanted to double check, are your pronouns he, her, he, she, or he, him, she, her, or they, them? It doesn't, most people don't mind if you ask.
Right.
And this year on our registration for Family Reunion, the registration did ask, what are your pronouns? And, and I was explaining in the little group is, this is all new to me too, and I'm learning, I'm learning all of it. And sometimes I think, well, why? But then I look at it, my journey in life and who I was and who I am and, all that other stuff. I just appreciate that people understand that, and the honesty up front, I think, is really important. So anyway.
Can I ask a question? This is Janice Greene. On that topic though, would that in any way appear discriminatory?
That's the thing, is that I feel like some people can get like, oh, do I not look straight, or do I not look, do I look like a they them to you? But like, I just,
not only that, I don't care what, I don't personally care, but the fact of the matter is, if I say, what is your pronoun? Could it be that I choose not to work with you because of your pronoun? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. And that lingo, by the way, is all new to me. So I didn't even know what KW was asking about with the pronouns. So I just guessed.
You're doing great.
So let's for now, let's say this is they, them is a good way to ask if somebody says my partner.
Mm-hmm.
What is their name?
Right.
Right. And I think that just using more generic terms in general, it is just like when we're talking about putting a listing on and we're not saying walking to or things like that. So really just being sensitive, and that's where there's tons. May is Fair Housing Month. Great classes through the National Association of Realtors, the Massachusetts Association of Realtors, your local boards, everyone's doing fair housing. And we also have a regional diversity task force that is working on different classes about education. So I would encourage all of you to make sure that you are involved in that education, and definitely, get Curtis's information. And when he is talking more about this in our office, you're welcome to join us. So thinking about, what were your ahas before we get too far to our break? What were your ahas in that activity? Did you find that hard? Did you find it easy?
I think for me, even though I had a successful open house over the weekend, just some of the things that I didn't ask. We were discussing how I missed the wife's name, and then to even assume that was his wife. So like just those thought processes, it just kind of was just a new way of thinking about going about open houses and meeting people and just gathering that information.
I love that aha, assuming that somebody is a couple or husband, wife, you don't know, child, like, woman and man, like you just don't know. Don't assume that. That is what I just heard from that, Brittany, and I love that. And I love that the lead sheet gave you some opportunity to practice, changing your thinking. What else?
Lorna, it's Carrie. Just going through the question sheet, it was actually hard to get all those questions in a natural way. I don't know, it was challenging. I mean, all good questions, but you really have to rehearse it.
Absolutely. And that is where the practice does come in for sure. Yeah, I agree with you, Carrie. Practice, and
now how is are we can we carry, can we be filling that out in front of them? Because I'm not memorizing any of this stuff. Is it acceptable? How does it work? Because I want to be memorizing it. I want it to come out nice, but my memory's not what it is. Otherwise I'd be a doctor.
So thinking about using something like Curtis's, client sheet where it has some of the questions,
yeah, and
then taking notes. I'm famous for, I don't have the same sign-in sheet as Curtis does. I should upgrade mine. Yet the one I have, usually on the back, it is, next to Amy and Joe Smith, writing, had two children with them, said they need a 4-bedroom, any details, follow up, said I would follow up, blah, 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 whatever. So you find your kind of hack in ways to make sure. You're not going to get every single one of the questions in at an open house, especially when it's busy. You may not, but if you can get the information to be able to follow up with, hey, I know that open house was so busy, Keith. I really enjoyed meeting you and your little ones. And I would love to see how, you know, I can help you. Could I ask you a few more questions?
So is it like in something like that? Am I trying to just get like a name and a phone number and an email address to like start and then plan on calling them and running through this list? Or am I like, let's run through this? I'm just trying to figure out like, what's the technique?
So thinking about situationally, say that we're doing open houses. So open houses either can be slammed and you are not even building one connection. You're just getting basic information so they can get through the house. Or you have a slow open house, which is sad yet good because you're building more of a relationship with people. Or if multiple people are doing open houses, you know, if Curtis, me and Mike are all doing an open house together, we're going to have more of an opportunity to connect because we're dispersing all of the people, right? So it will depend. If there's time, a lot of times if people walk through the open house, like Curtis said, and at the end, like, could you give me some feedback? What did you think? Blah, blah, blah. You start talking, you might find that you're getting enough of the information to tie them down to say, geez, it sounds like I might have some ways to help you. Would you like to meet? Right? So it will depend, or it's a list for you to follow up via text message, email, or phone call.
Got it.
All right.
Lorna, can I ask a question? Now, what would happen if you came to an open house and the people said, oh, I don't really want to give you my information, or I don't really want to sign in? How do you work that?
For me, it is, and Curtis and Mike, feel free to jump in on this, or anyone else who's done open houses, but I usually say the seller has requested that we have a record of everyone in the house. And with COVID, I just say for contact tracing at this point, it's really important to have that. Curtis and Mike, anything to add?
Yeah, I've only had one situation where somebody, was really adamant about it. And I said, and the one thing I said to them is, I understand that you do that. I said, but you have to understand is, if things go, if things go missing or someone falls down the stairs and hurts themselves or, those kinds of things. It's just we're opening a private home to you, and the sellers do have the obligation to know who is going to be in their house. I'll even say, I said, look, I won't contact you for any reason. If you have a relationship with a realtor, or if you don't want me to contact you, I won't. We just want to know who is in the house. That's all we're asking. And then they typically wrote it down, so.
Yeah, I was going to say right now, it's like, not that we should really use it as an excuse, but it is a safety measure. So, we want to make sure because of COVID, we are able to contact people if, God forbid, there was an issue. So we need a name and a phone number from at least one member in your party.
Exactly.
All right. That same thing in a couple open houses because we did have that scenario and then they were totally fine. So it's definitely what does happen. That's easy enough to say. I mean, the seller does need to know has a right to know who's been through their home too. So, and you can use the COVID angle right now to your advantage. The one thing good about COVID, right? There's some good things about COVID.
You find one or two things, exactly.
Yeah, and I think Keith was talking about being worried about he doesn't have a really good memory and like, how's he gonna memorize all these? Use that to your advantage. You know what, I don't have a very good memory. I actually have a little cheat sheet here, like take down a couple of notes so we, connect again, prepared for our conversation. So you can use that to your advantage too, saying that you're not prepared. Or you don't have the memorization or whatever, if you're not prepared. But.
Great point, Melissa. I love that. I love that. So before we go on break, which we're going to take a break, Mike has a couple things to share, and then we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and finish up class. How does that sound? All right, Mike, take it away, but lead us into break.
Lead us into break. So I just posted into the chat the little quick instructions I threw together on how to find your KW app QR code so that you can save it to your computer, a little step-by-step for you. And then Curtis was awesome and shared his 2 documents he was talking about, his little open house sheet and his buyer guide. So feel free to grab those links out of the chat. And I think that's about it. If you have any other questions with some of the tech stuff that I've gone over, I'm going to be dropping off after the break here. So I'm going to throw a link to my contact information there as well. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Yeah, and also feel free to email. I put my email in the chat a couple of times. Feel free to email me as well in regard to the things coming up in June and potential other stuff, just for questions in regard to the open houses, how I do it.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Mike, thank you. And 10:39, we are going to get back together at 10, it just went to 10:40. So we're at 10:50. We're going to get back together, finish up class, and make some plans about finding and winning buyers. How does that sound? All right, get some coffee, get some water, stretch your legs, and I'll see you all in 10 minutes.
So I just posted a video on social media and I'm starting to get some leads from it. And I actually confirmed one appointment for today at 3 o'clock, but I didn't do the buyer the buyer sheet because I didn't really know that we were supposed to ask those kind of stuff. So today when I call them, or even if I have them come in, should I do that and then continue on with trying to have them sign a buyer agreement?
So it's, you're going to really need to take their temperature through that. So if you, for whatever reason, don't get the buyer lead sheet, right? But so are you having an actual appointment with them or just a phone call later?
So it's a phone call, but I'm going to see if I can have them come in. So that way it's more personal instead of just over the phone.
Yep. So I guess it would be first, what was your video about? And then what was the interaction after they responded to your video?
So it's pretty much just me introducing myself, that I'm a real estate agent and that I can help them with any of their real estate needs. And they gave me a little information. They said that they were trying to buy a property with their boyfriend and they wanted to see the process of how to do it all. So I told them that I asked her what time is she available and she said today. So I was like, okay, then I could definitely give you a call today.
Awesome. So I think finding out, if you're just having a phone call to kind of follow up on what she said, which is then when you would use that lead sheet that we went over, right? Asking the questions, are you buying this on your own? She said it's with her boyfriend, right? Is he going to be on the mortgage? Those type of things, timeline wise. And then once you've got that information, say, I'd really love to meet with both. If it's only her on the phone, set the appointment for both of them. Hey, I'd love to meet with both of you. That way we can really go through the process together. I'm going to learn more about what you want and I'll go through step by step so you're aware of how this works. Okay. And then set the appointment. So if she says, yeah, we could do it tonight, great. Now you're making a next appointment, but it might be that that's not till tomorrow or the next day. And that's all okay. But you want both decision makers there.
Okay.
Does that help, Anthony?
Yeah, it does help. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. It's 10:50. Woohoo. All right. And we got people coming back. We love it. So I'm going to share my screen and we are going to continue on. Let's see. Buyer lead sheet. All right. So everybody ready to get going? That's a resounding yes, right? So if you're ready, go woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Ready? Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. I see one or two. Let's keep going. You need to get the energy up, my friends. We got another hour to go, so we want to make sure that we are raring. So, buyer lead sheet, it is your friend. We did that. So now it's about signing the agreement, right? Having the appointment and signing the agreement. So you will be digging deeper into the buyer consultation. And this kind of just goes through part of what the point of the buyer consultation is besides the wants and needs, is to get the buyer to sign the agreement. So I want to think about a few things here. You'll notice I don't keep that slideshow on too much. You know, once you've assessed their needs with that buyer lead sheet, and you're asking the questions about the motivation, about are they financially ready, right? Thinking about the next step. You're at the buyer consultation, which that is not today's class, but the buyer, why is the buyer consultation so important?
So you get to know the client and what they want, so you can be the best agent for them.
That's right. So you get to know their wants and needs, right?
To sign, right? Don't you also, isn't it also to get them to sign with you, hopefully?
It is the goal to have them sign the contract with you. Exactly. What else? It's all about the relationships, my friends, all about the relationship, right? So it is just building that relationship. If you met with a financial planner, has anybody ever done that before? Right? Or an insurance person, like a life insurance person. Anybody done that before? Right? And when you're meeting with them, you're having the conversations, you're talking about your wants and needs for your financial plan and for life insurance, which kind of all ties together a lot of times, right? Everyone agree with me on that? And do they ever ask you to sign a contract? Financial planners will ask you to sign a contract lots of times, depending. Later on down the road, right? Not right at that first meeting. So thinking about the fact is they build the relationship with you, right, Julie? I see Julie's like, yeah, they do. So thinking about building the relationship, and if it feels right, you need to get that buyer agreement signed at that moment. Now, I'm going to tell you there's 2 different ways to do business. Actually, it's about 1 million different ways, right? The point is working with an unrepresented buyer. What are the risks?
They could go work with someone else.
You could spend months with them and then they could go buy with somebody else. What else?
You really can't talk about a lot of things.
Do you have that, right, the fiduciary responsibility, right? Are you really representing them? So depending on your state and what your consumer relationship disclosures, what we have in Massachusetts, other states have similar disclosures about who you're representing, but that's just a disclosure. It is not the contract, my friends. Yet with that consumer relationship disclosure, it says you represent them. Did you know that? But do you have a contract? So you have the fiduciary responsibility. Do they have their commitment back to you? Not without a contract, my friends, not without a contract. So in thinking about that buyer agreement. So how many of you have been in business for under 6 months? How about under a year? Under 5 years? So thinking about Curtis, how long have you been in business?
It'll be 8 years in September.
Oh my gosh. So thinking about in your career, Curtis, have you worked without a buyer, without a contract? And what have some outcomes been for you?
There were a couple I worked with without contracts, and some of them were really good. One wasn't. I actually had one that had a contract, and I got rid of them because I chose not to work with them. But look, the way I explain the mandatory relationship disclosure and the contract, designated agency in regard to buyer.
Just remember we have 6 states here.
Yeah, that's true.
But you can just go through kind of.
Anyway, this is who I am to you. This is what I do for you. That's what they do. This is who I am. but this is what I do, and this is why I do it, and this is what I get paid, and this is why I'm so great. And that's what your consultation is going to explain. One of the ways I get my buyers to sign that consultation, because they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to be, obligated to you. I'm like, oh no, that's not at all what that means. It means I am obligated to you. That means you get my 100% attention for me to do the job I do for the rest of my buyers. I'm going to give it to you. And I do explain. I said, look, I have 4 or 5 other buyers that I have under agreement to work for them. I'm working for them. And if you aren't willing to sign it this time, you have to understand they are going to get priority. When they want to see houses this Saturday, I'm going to go show them houses before I'm going to show you houses, because they're showing me that they're ready to do the buying process. And that makes me obligated to them, because they're going to get my service first. And if you want this impeccable service, we have to do it this way. And I appreciate that, and normally when I say that, they sign right away, because they're like, oh. And of course you always say, if for any reason at any time you feel I'm not doing the job for you, this contract is null and void. However, I know that won't happen, because we just went through the consultation and you know everything that I do to get you to where you want to be.
So back to the point of the consultation, which is what I just heard Curtis say, is after going through their wants and needs, explaining the process, you are then, you've shown your value. Then there's the discussion for the agreement, the buyer agreement. Does that make sense? Right? So we don't want to just like, all right, so we're sitting down. So before we get started, I'd like you to sign this contract with me. I know you haven't talked to me or met me yet, but go ahead, sign the contract, sign away your life. I'm just kidding. So, but thinking about building the relationship, so that consultation is about building the relationship. Then we're talking about the agreement, right? And it really does become important to think about and compare it always to listings. Would you take a listing of a property without a contract? Okay, so this is where you guys are going to unmute. Tell me why you would not take a listing without a contract.
You need to get paid for your services, all the time you're putting into selling that house.
That's right. So you want to get paid for your services when you have list a house. Why else? As a listing, which I'm a sellers for a second. If you're going to take a house for sale, why do you need a contract?
Oh, to make it legal. If you are selling something that has a contract, you have to have it in writing that you're representing the person that is selling. I'm pretty sure that's right. I'm not sure.
So in order to make sure that you are going to get paid at the end of all your hard work, you want to have that contract, right, Carrie, as a listing agent. So as a listing agent, by listing a property, do you need to spend money? Right? You put out money as a listing agent. What do you spend money on as a listing agent?
Marketing, photos, your time.
Yep. Photos, marketing, signs, right? Lock boxes, getting keys made. And then you spend time at the open house. You spend time meeting the stager. It's time, right? So it's money and time. Right? When working with buyers, what do you spend money on?
Gas.
Gas.
And time.
Time. Is your time worth money? So what I hear you say, or what I'm thinking that, because nobody's talking, so I feel like in my script, you would be saying that as a listing agent, you're going to make sure you get a contract because you're spending money. But as a buyer agent, many of us seasoned agents and others struggle with the buyer contract because it's just our time. Yeah, it's just our time. It's okay if we spend time.
Let me put this into perspective, Lorna. And I don't know if I told you this a week or so ago. But I sat down and looked at last year, the year before, and figured out kind of I try to figure out what my hours are per week, and I divide that by, you know, what I made by the month or by the year. And it comes out to like $122 an hour, or, you know, something like that. And so that's the way I look at it. If you're not going to sign a contract with me, I'm not going to spend $122 an hour with you if you're not serious about having that relationship with me. Because then I don't have a contract with them. I spent 2 hours with them. I just threw $244 out the window because I don't know if I'm actually going to get paid for the time that I gave them.
So we get an agreement or a contract signed with a listing. It's the same thing with buyers. Would you all agree with me? Right? And so some people, every agent is different. Some people get it signed at the buyer consultation. They get that buyer agreement signed, so they have the commitment. Some people give the buyer a chance because they say, you know what? I'm going to take you out 3 times. At the 3rd time that we go to look at homes, we're going to sign the buyer contract. The reason I want to do that is I want us to date. I want us to make sure that we're a good fit before we get married, right? You need to look at your market center policies and how you want to do your business. If you continue to work with buyers over time without a contract, you're going to find that you will have a tough experience. May I share a tough experience? Do you know what a tough experience looks like? It looks like a knife in your heart. And so I had friends of mine, they were first-time buyers. It was when I was first in real estate, and we went to tons of open houses and tons of showings. And we looked at houses on a Sunday morning, and they said, all right, great. You know, we're going to go do blah, blah, blah for the day. I'm like, all right, I'm heading to some open houses. You know, think about this house. I know it wasn't really, it wasn't a fit for them. Great. We'll talk to you over the next couple of days. Awesome. Friends, remind you, friends. No contract because they were my friends. And off they went. Went to an open house and they loved it. Loved it. It was the dream house. It was a really cute house. And they made an offer and bought it with the listing agent. So I called as a good agent to follow up, like, hey, how did it go? Did you hit any open houses or blah, blah? Nothing. Left 2 messages, sent an email, nothing. Wednesday, finally called me and told me the heartbreak story that, Lorna, we were just so nervous. There were so many people in the open house, and we were afraid if we didn't use the listing agent, we wouldn't get the house. So we made the offer and we got it accepted. I'm so excited. Don't hate us. That was my feeling, like, okay, breathe deep. And then what did I need to do? Be gracious. Congratulations, I'm so excited for you. And I had to put the mirror. I had to look in the mirror and I had to look here and I had to say, Lorna, what could you have done differently to make sure this didn't happen? What could I have done differently, everybody?
Get them to sign that buyer agreement.
Get the contract signed and do a better job. Back then, nobody told me about buyer consultations. We didn't have the conversation. I mean, we did, like, don't sign at the open house. I gave them lots of tips to make sure they understood that they should not call signs. I thought I had covered all of it. But in the moment of being excited, knowing there was no commitment, they decided that they were going to worry about them and not worry about Lorna and all of her time spent. Right?
And Lorna, another thing in regard to that is that consultation, having the conversation with them, because I do run into a lot of people who have been at open houses and they call the listing agent like, oh, we'd like to get in. I'm like, I said, first of all, you're asking somebody else to do the work for you for free. 2 is the listing agent represents the seller. Their job is to defend the price and get as much money as possible. They don't care that you're a direct buyer. They're going to tell you what price you need to pay because that's their job. I had someone that I'd worked with for about a year. I let them go because It was kind of a waste of time. Come to find out, they bought a house. So of course, I look up their last name in public record and I find the house. They bought a house from the listing agent at the asking price and had been on the market for 61 days. And they paid the asking price because the listing agent wrote the contract. If I'd have been the buyer agent, they'd have got that house for $25,000 less or more. If it's been on the market 60 days, and this was, 2 or 3 years ago, which still, things were selling. So that's another thing. And in the conversation that you understand is that a little bit of the conversation is that a seller agent represents the seller, not you. You need someone to represent you fiduciarily on your side to make sure that you get the best value, whatever. But yeah.
Exactly.
Wow, that's rough.
That was a rough one. So don't be Lorna, right? You guys, every time I teach a class, you'll learn more about all of the mistakes I made because I don't want you to do the same thing. So making sure that you practice. Have I mentioned that you should practice? Practice with each other. Who has a script partner? Okay, I see 3 hands. All right, I saw 4 hands with Chuck. If you guys do not have a script partner and you need one, either put it in the chat now, like, hey, looking for one, or go to our Facebook Ignite Facebook page and put in that you want a script partner. Every single day, that buyer lead sheet, asking for the agreement, all of that's going to happen when you practice. So capture names, find somebody. That is your homework to get a script partner. I have a little bit of homework I've given you guys today, huh? So, but I want you really, this lead sheet and the buyer agreement are so important. One helps you qualify the buyer. The agreement helps you get commitment. And remembering the commitment isn't about you, it's about them. I mean, you do want to get paid, don't you? All right, I love seeing this chat. You guys better be writing these names down so you all get some script partners. Tell me what your limiting beliefs are around buyer agent agreements.
Could you repeat that question one more time?
Yes.
Sorry.
What are your limiting beliefs around getting a buyer agreement signed?
Commitment? That they might not sign.
You're nervous they might not sign. Getting the commitment, Grace? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
What do you mean by commitment? Like that they're afraid to commit, you're afraid to commit?
Both. Knowing that, once they commit to, once I have that commitment, I'll feel more free to just call and do more research. And it works both ways. If I'm going to put my time and effort.
That's right.
They will work with me.
So thinking about the, one of the scripts that I've heard quite a few times is this. Grace, I really enjoyed meeting you today, and I really feel like I have a good sense of what you're looking for from this buyer consultation. Do you feel like you have a good sense of what the process is going to be? Grace, you answer my question, please. I know you muted again, but.
Yes. Could you repeat the question?
Grace, I enjoyed having the buyer consultation with you today and really getting a good sense of what it is that you're looking for in a new home. I want to know, did I cover all the questions and do you have a good understanding of the process of buying a home today?
I think so. I think it's more one of those things that we'll both learn as we go, because right now I'm at the beginning stage of looking.
Yep. I agree with you. And I think once we, get into some homes and you're honest with me about what you're looking for and, what you like and what you don't like, one of the things I'm going to tell you, Grace, is when we go look at homes, they're not my home. So I really want you to be honest with me about what you like and what you don't like. It's not going to hurt my feelings, I promise. So it's good for us because it will keep the open communication. Does that make sense?
It does.
And Grace, was I able to convey with you today why we should work together and why I think we'd be a really great fit? What do you think?
Yes, I think it all makes sense. You know, that we're both, I'm going to have somebody on my corner that I can lean on and is looking for, you know, for things for me, looking for leads. So I'm happy with this whole process.
Right, Grace, so I want to go over with you a little bit about our buyer agreement. Would that be okay?
Sure, that would be good.
So this first part right here says that we're going to be working together, and in Massachusetts that you're consenting to designated agency. I'm going to be your designated agent. Will that be okay? You got me working for you.
Yes, but I do have a couple of questions. If I'm in an open house and you're not with me, how does that all work?
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked that, Grace. I usually cover that in my buyer consultation, so I'm so sorry. I must have skipped around on that. So when you go to open houses, I'm going to give you a stack of my cards. And you can just hand that to the listing agent and say, this is my agent, you know, that I'm working with. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If you run out of my cards, what you could do is on the sign-in sheet, you'll see it. You're going to write your name, and then right next to it, write my name and my phone number, which you're going to have from the app that I gave you earlier. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
You know, because again, open houses, a lot of times there's so many people coming and going, the agents don't remember who's working with an agent. So this way you won't get any unwanted phone calls and they'll call me to get feedback. Does that make sense?
It does. So what happens that if I look at an open house, I'm very interested and you're on vacation, you're unavailable?
Great question. Curtis, you want to answer that, don't you?
I will. Because I will be on Lorna's list of friends from the office that will gladly fill in for her that week. Ann Hinks was on vacation about 3 weeks ago. I showed her buyers 2 or 3 houses. You get a little network of people that are in the office that will be available to help your clients at that time. We all help each other out. And you know, it's not, you know, sometimes there are people that'll be like, oh, you know, I'll pay you $25 an hour or whatever. When Ann and I do this, I'm like, you know what? Don't worry about that because, you know, I'm going to be, well, I have surgery on June 1st. You're going to have to bring me a couple of meals. So we all just jump in and help each other. Coming from contribution goes between realtors as it does between what we do for our clients. So there's always going to be somebody on your list, on my list, that it will be able to help you if I'm unavailable.
Good to know. So you will be notifying me when you do leave or go on vacation?
Absolutely, Grace. You know what? I have a team of agents that we all support each other, and I will keep, obviously, we're going to be talking all the time anyway, so I will definitely let you know, you know, when and if I go on vacation. It doesn't happen very often, trust me. But great question. So this here explains that we've talked about, I'm going to put you on MLS drip in my contract. And it tells you that I'm going to keep you updated on the market. I gave you my app already, and you'll be getting daily emails from me of new listings coming on the market. But Grace, don't you worry. It's not just about that list. I'm going to be proactively looking, as we talked about, other places for sale by owners, checking with people in our office and other agents I work with to find a house that's not listed on the market. Does that make sense, Grace?
Yes, it does. And it's good to know that.
Awesome. And this part right here tells you my fee for service. Just like you have a doctor or a dentist, they have a fee for service as well. So this is the fee for service. In my area, most of the time, the seller does pay that fee. If there's any discrepancy between what I charge and what's offered in MLS, that would be part of your closing cost fees when we close. Does that make sense?
That sounds a little foggy. It's like, I thought it was always the seller that paid the commissions. So
that is a myth, Grace. Let me tell you a little bit more about that. So in the old days, like when I got my real estate license, there were actually no buyer agents. Can you believe it? Those poor buyers, they worked without somebody representing them. And so the seller's agent, the listing agent, would offer sub-agency compensation, right? And once buyer agency was created, now this is just in Massachusetts, I don't know when your state got buyer agency, everybody. Now buyer agents were offered zero at that time, and they weren't compensated. So the buyers were putting it into the contract. So the way it works is this, Grace, is that we typically get paid by the seller. Yet if it's not the compensation, we're going to write into your contract, seller to pay X% of the agreed upon purchase price. And so it'll be wrapped in as part of your offer. Does that make sense, Grace?
So the seller actually.
So we will be asking for it in that way.
Okay, that helps.
All right, great. Grace, if I answered, I've gone through all the contract I forgot to tell you the timeline. So typically it takes about 6 months, and I know that's where you're looking to buy within that time frame. So our contract term will be 6 months. If it takes you a little bit longer, we'll just extend it when necessary. Grace, do you have any further questions about our contract?
Right now, I think I'm good, but if I do, I can just shoot you an email or a text.
Absolutely. So Grace, what we're going to do now is we're going to go out 2 times. And by the second time that we look at houses, we're going to sign this contract committing to each other, because I want you to feel comfortable signing and know that you definitely want to work with me. Does that make sense, Grace?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good way to do it.
All right, great. So you take this and review it again. And then when I meet you that second time, we'll sign it before we go into the first house. Sound like a plan?
Perfect.
All right. Thanks, Grace.
Thank you.
So, little bit of a script, right? Now I could have gone the other way. Grace was definitely, just so you know, I feel like she was committing to me before. So I could have said, if all these terms make sense, Grace, why don't we sign this so we can get started working for you? You got to feel the person out. There are some people who are contract and commitment phobic. Do you know anybody who's commitment phobic in anything in life? I can name a few people in my world. So you want to get commitment. The best thing to do is to get it at the moment. Yet, do you want to lose that person? And if you give them a chance, but the one thing I'll tell you, fair housing here. If you're saying 2 to everybody, one person, you're saying 2 to everybody. If your practice in your business is to get the contract signed before they go in your car to look at a property, then guess what? You're doing that with everybody. One of the main things in fair housing is that you treat 2 people differently. Do not do that. So decide how you're going to run your business and run it that way for every person you meet. Any other questions about the buyer agent agreement? All right. So we're going to go back here because I think I know what time it is. It's one of my favorite times. Is lead gen time. So we're not all leaving. Do not start unclicking. I'm very sweet that I don't make you do a whole half hour of lead generation. What I want you to do, Curtis, go ahead.
Okay, because I feel like you're doing the lead generation and then we're going to end shortly.
And after we're going to do 15 minutes of lead generation, and then we're going to come back, do a recap, and ask, and then you guys can ask any questions.
Oh, you know what? Then we'll wait for the recap and question.
Awesome. All right. So, who has a call list? All right. And if you're not sure who to call, right? So, I want you to go to the call list. And I want you to go to your phone. and it is 11:21. I want you to mute, but I'd love to see you to stay on and let's all make calls together. Curtis is going to make a call. I'm going to make a call. Use the Ford script and see if there's anybody that you can share the news that you're in real estate and see if they've been thinking about buying. As you're making your calls, because we have 15 minutes, you should probably get more than one call in. Would you agree with that? After you make your calls in the chat, if you get an appointment or you have a successful conversation, I want you to share with everybody. Does anybody have any questions about what we're doing? All right, so everybody stand up. Ready? You all standing? All right, stretch a little. Right, and swing your arms around, right? And then repeat after me. They want to hear from me. Ready? 1, 2, 3. They want to hear from me. Did you say it? So hard I can't hear everybody. But you know people want to talk to you. Go find out how your family and friends are doing. Remember, ask about family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And make sure you're sharing with them the exciting news that you are in real estate. And I cannot wait to hear your successes at 11:37. All right. Happy calling, everybody. Everybody has 1 more minute. All right, my friends, 11:37. I saw Victoria had an appointment. Woohoo, that's awesome. And how did your conversations go, everyone? Share with me.
Well, I actually called my girlfriend that I knew that had just gone recently through a divorce in the last 2 years. And she had mentioned to me last week when I had called her that she was possibly looking into selling. So I kind of gave her a few days, and I just called her now and, told her that, with the market being the way it is and with the interest rates the way that they are, that she should really jump on the chance of doing this now before she loses out. So she was actually wanting to get into more information, but I told her, unfortunately, I had to get back on into my training and that I wanted to meet with her. So she set up a time with me for Thursday evening.
I love it. Congratulations. That's awesome. Right? Go for the close. Set the appointment. ABC, always be closing. It's awesome. Did anybody have a great conversation? Was somebody surprised you were in real estate? Share with me something else.
I just talked to my aunt who is on my dad's side of the family, and she just almost kind of forgot that I was in a relationship. Oh, how is that? How is that going? So I just reiterated how important it is, if you know anybody that is interested in real estate, send them my way. And I've done referrals and that it's worked out really well. And I've placed people with great agents. So I had that conversation with her.
Awesome. That you can service people anywhere, not just in there. Where do you live, Brittany?
I'm in Middletown right now. I work out of the Newport office.
Okay, awesome. So the fact is that you have, tons of resources to share. And I love that. That was a great angle or, point to make with family members. So nice job.
Thanks.
Any other wins or ahas? No? Did everybody talk to at least one person? That is the point. You guys got this. That was awesome. So we're going to end with a day of, tell me one thing you learned today that you didn't know about finding and winning with buyers.
I think the lead sheet helped a lot too, just to practice that and to be able to go have a source to go through and kind of in your own mind or make your own that really makes sense to you.
Awesome. Lead sheet. Print it, practice it, use it. What else?
I think
like the individual sign-in cards.
Curtis's individual sign-in cards, and those great. And the link is in the chat, so make sure you guys download that. Amy.
I was just going to say, like, some of the language to use. For example, instead of saying, do you have a real estate agent, saying like, oh, who's your great real estate agent, to try to get, that information without sounding pushy.
I love that. Yep. That language matters. All right, give me one more. No more. Go ahead, Chuck. Uh-oh, we can't hear you. Uh-oh, that's so strange. We can't hear you. You can type it in the chat.
Hey.
Oh, hi, Anthony.
I was gonna say, yeah, Chuck, we can't hear you.
Yeah.
Try muting and unmuting.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's so weird that we can't hear you. I'm looking for the stuff that Mike, here we go. I'm gonna repost that. There you go. All right, everybody. Who wants to win with buyers this week? Who remembers the homework? Get a script partner, find an open house to shadow or host. Get a script partner, find an open house to shadow or host. Those are your 2 things to do today, besides making your phone calls. Are you guys all doing the daily 10-4? All right. That daily 10-4 reporting is a great way to be personally accountable. It helps you stay on track. So that way, when I meet with Carrie at my office and I say, Carrie, how's it going? And she says, well, I don't know. And I say, well, how many calls have you made? I hope Carrie's going to be able to say, Lorna, I've made 50 calls, or however many calls she's made. And if it's 10, I'm happy that she made 10. But we want to be able to have a conversation around it.
Where is the 10-4 again? Because I started it. Is that in Keller Williams in the app, or is it a separate? Because I did it, but I just don't remember exactly where it is.
I will take a copy of it. Hold on one second. Copy link. It is right here.
Can I ask where we can go to get the buyer's consultation so that we can edit it for ourselves?
So yes, you absolutely can. First of all, I just want to show you the link where you do the reporting. It's the link that I put in the chat. You choose your office and just helps you stay true to your daily 10-4, okay? And then in terms of buyer consultation, in your offices, you may have a buyer consultation that you utilize, or in designs and command. Can you guys see my screen? You will see print, and you hit the little plus sign. I'm just going to spin for a second. One of the great things, if you get the buyer consultation pretty much started and done, you will have something to utilize with all of your buyers. So this is one of those things that it is important to work on getting done. So buyer, click on buyer presentation, and there's 6 different ways. So everybody has a different look that they want. If you choose this one, right, you would click on use and it will pop up, and then you can customize it to whatever it is that you know, what you want it to say. So you can, so we click it on page 1, right? And we're going to make sure that we're adding the pages to our buyer consultation. So I'm hitting add. See how I clicked on the little plus sign? That adds the page. Now I have 2 pages and I'm going down, clicking on this one. I'm going to add. And you just keep going. And you don't have to click on every page, do you? Right? Read through it and decide which ones make sense for you. But you just add the pages, and then you can go in and customize what you want. Does that answer your question about where to find the buyer presentations?
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions? All right. First, I'm going to stay on till 12 to stay and answer questions. But first of all, I want to say thank you to Curtis. Curtis, we love you. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I know you had something you want to talk about with recap.
Yeah, just to kind of go over one of the things, you know, that Amy said in regard to, you know, part of getting people to come closer to you is to disarm them so they feel better coming closer to you. People have that defense. It's like walking into a department store and someone says, "Hi, how can I help you?" I hate that. You know, I don't need your help. I'm here, you know, whatever. So yeah, so I always said, "What brings you in today?" And people would stop for a minute like, oh, well, I was looking for, and then I take them to what they're looking for. And in the meantime, I have a conversation with them. Same thing. When they come in, I say, since you already have a great agent, go ahead and put their name down. And if you have questions, I'll get them the answers for you. You just completely disarm them because they're not worried about you calling them every day and all this other stuff, because you're jumping on them and it disarms them. And then that's when you get to go and ask them to help you and come back and do give feedback for the house. Now, someone put in the comments about building value in regard to that contract. I sold jewelry for 25 years. No one needs jewelry. I mean, some girls may, argue with me about that. But anyway, I could describe a piece of jewelry so well, and I would never talk about the price of it. Someone would say, can I see that? I'm like, great. I would pull it out of the case. I would, shine it, polish it, which also made them want it more because I wouldn't give it to them right away. So you got to find ways to make people want you more by, hesitating, pausing. Anyway, and when I would give them the piece, I'm like, look, this is a beautiful Ceylon sapphire. It's from, near the Indian Ocean. And this has this type of faceting, and the metal is platinum. It's going to feel so luxurious against your skin. When people look at that, they're going to know that you like quality. I'm building up their confidence and building up the value of the ring in their head. That way, when I tell them the price, they're like, oh. Instead of saying right out of the way, oh, by the way, this is an $87,000 sapphire ring. Now, I romanced the crap out of that thing. So when I said the price, they're like, oh, that's not that bad, because I built up that image in their head. Same thing. If you're giving them the questionnaire, if you're understanding their needs, if you're, sending a thank you note and calling up to make sure they got it, and if you're doing all these little things, every time you do something like that, you are adding value. When you ask them to sign that contract, they are just going to sign it because they understand what they're signing up for, because you have every little thing you've done has built the value, and they understand that they are getting the best, and there's no reason not to hesitate. One of the other things too, that this came out last year, and Lorna, you mentioned this a little bit, is we can no longer say that you don't pay us. It's actually brought it out. I think the state said that we can no longer say that, oh, you don't pay me at all, or whatever. You can't say that. Now, in my script that I did when I was showing them, oh, it looks like I found the perfect house for you, I did change my script a little bit and said, if you let me work for you for a few weeks, I'll let you know. I used to say, let me work for you for free for a week, and I'll show you the value I can have. Now, I talked to someone about that, and that's okay, because I'm not going to get paid for the week, and I'm not going to, but I'll probably get paid after that. Let me work for you for free for the next week and show you the value I can add to finding the perfect home for you. Then that's when, and that's when you send the questionnaire. That's when you send the buyer's guide. That's when you send that handwritten note. That's when you call and find out if they received the note and how they're doing. And then that's when you ask, let's do the consultation. At that, and by the way, you can set them up on their home search, because finding out a little thing. If you fill out the questionnaire, that'll teach you, but send it back to me so I can get a good image of what you're looking for in a house. So all those little things about, I'm doing all of this for you. When you have that consultation and you send them the contract, they're gonna sign it, because they already see your value.
That's right. Always thinking about your value proposition and what do you bring to the table. All of you have skills to bring to the table, from your real estate studying to being through Ignite to your life experiences. So know your value and be able to communicate it at a high level, as Curtis does right there, right, my friends? All right, so this has been fantastic. If you all will take a moment to go to kwueval.com and give me a review, that would help me out immensely. So in case you didn't get it, it is kwueval.com. And the biggest form of flattery is making sure, for people like Curtis who take the time, if you have any referrals, think of Curtis in the future. So we are a regional event in the KWU evaluation, regional. And we are in Spark Ignite 7. And my name, in case you can't find it, is Lorna Helms. And then go ahead and rate me. Be honest, that will help me best. All right, everybody. Thank you for doing the evaluation. Thank you for sticking it out with me. You guys were awesome. I love that you put your screens on, that you engaged. You did the breakout rooms. Awesome. And I look forward to seeing you all in, I think I'm next again in 2 weeks near the end of the month, but I'll be popping in and out to see how you're all doing. Feel free to reach out with any questions. Lorna Helms at kw.com. And I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes to answer any questions that maybe you didn't want to ask in a big group. If you want to jump off, go right ahead. Have a fantastic day. Bye, everybody.
Lorna, can you give that site again for the KWU? I just typed it in and